the third largest party in Westminster, and today it announced that Alex Salmond would become its foreign affairs spokesman. He joins me now. In theory, how many refugees who are currently at risk in the Mediterranean would Scotland be prepared to take?
Well, we've already argued, the Scottish Government's already argued that Britain should play its part and take in and be part of the European effort to find homes for these people.
How big a part, though?
Well, a fair share along with the other European countries, as opposed to virtually saying we're going to opt out of that.
So the full 60,000, you in Scotland, if you were able to, would be prepared to give a home to?
We should take our fair share as a country of Britain, and Scotland certainly advocates that, and I'm quite certain the Scottish Government will continue to push very hard for that. Can I just say, I think the UK Government in general, Theresa May in particular, is hopelessly misjudging this issue. I can think of very few people in Scotland, and I think very few people in England either, who would want to turn away people in total extremity, given the scenes that we've all witnessed on our televisions over the last 2 or 3 months. And where are these people to go if they're not settled? Can they all be returned? Doesn't seem likely. And they can't stay in the hold of a warship in the middle of the Mediterranean for any great length of time. So Britain must play its full part. Scotland.
But you won't say how big a part. You won't say whether the full 60,000.
Well, I think Britain should take the full 60,000, and Scotland is certainly willing to take our proportionate share, and we would argue for that.
And you don't think, as the Conservatives argue, that people are worried about the impact on public services?
No, I think most people are human beings, and when they see people in their extremity, want to do something to help. And I think a government which doesn't understand that basic human instinct of the Scottish people, and indeed the English people, isn't the sort of government that represents people properly.
Clearly there's a great deal of politics at work here, with the Conservatives picking a fight with Europe on this very early in the government. The mood music also is for an earlier EU referendum, in-out referendum. Do you welcome that? Do you say bring it on?
I don't agree there should be a referendum, and I don't agree with the negotiating tactic. I held a referendum in Scotland about Scottish independence.
And yet you deny people a say on Europe?
No, but can I just explain the difference? I did that because I wanted Scotland to be independent, and I wanted a mandate from the Scottish people. But David Cameron is asking for a European referendum when we all know he doesn't want to withdraw from the European Union. He wants to stay in. So this extraordinary position of a Prime Minister arguing for a referendum, which he wants to argue for a yes vote in, is where the confusion and I think a lot of the damage is going to come from over the next 2 years.
But isn't the fact that you're sort of slightly lukewarm on having a referendum at all and settling this debate once and for all, is that it might bounce you into an earlier second referendum on Scotland than you would like? You currently don't have the votes to win that.
Well, actually, for all the reasons I've thought of for opposing the European referendum, that one that's actually never occurred to me. I mean, it may have occurred to Nicola Sturgeon, but I don't think so. I don't think that's a reason at all. I mean, as Nicola has said on a number of occasions, the timing of a new referendum in Scotland will be determined ultimately by the Scottish people. And I've got the fantastic ability now to look interviewers like yourself straight in the eye when you ask me when's that going to be and say that's a matter for Nicola Sturgeon.
So if UK votes to leave Europe, that would trigger a second Scottish referendum. You've made that clear. If the government goes ahead with its plans to scrap the Human Rights Act, should that also trigger a second Scotland referendum?
What Nicola said is, if you had a situation where Scotland was dragged out of the European Union against the will of the Scottish people, then that would be a fundamental change in circumstances. And she's also proposed a solution, which is to have the lock that all the component nations would have to agree to withdraw before a withdrawal could be effected. So there's a proposal to safeguard the interests of all of these equal partners in this United Kingdom, as David Cameron used to describe it.
But is scrapping the Human Rights Act also another trigger?
Well, I don't think they're going to manage it, because they'll need legislative consent from the Scottish Parliament to do away with the Strasbourg Court and its providence. We support the Human Rights Act because we like people being able to sue governments against things like the bedroom tax and have basic human rights that we should not be frightened of. So I don't think the Scottish Parliament, under the Scottish National Party, has any chance whatsoever of giving legislative consent to such an insane proposal. Final, very quick one. Have you ever received a letter from Prince Charles on Scottish government policy? Yes. Many? Quite a few. Oh, very good. Well, I thought they were excellent. I thought they were... Prince Charles's letters, in my opinion, are on subjects he knows quite a bit about, and in the main I found them very intelligent and always worth reading. Alex Salmond, thank you very much for joining us. Great pleasure. John.